Explain to me how the increase in paper pieces can possibly make a society richer.
What about the Fed?
They announced another round of the quantitative easing.
What does that mean?
It means they are going to make large asset purchases via POMO.
What does that mean?
It means they are going to expand their balance sheet and buy treasuries.
What does that mean?
It means they are going to print a ton of money.
So why do they call it the quantitative easing? Why don't they just call it the printing money?
Because the printing money is the last refuge of failed economic empires and banana republics, and the Fed doesn't want to admit this is their only idea.
So why do they want to print the money?
Because they say we have the deflation, and the deflation is very bad.
What is the deflation?
The deflation is when prices of the things we buy go down.
Isn't that good? Doesn't it mean the people can buy more of the stuff?
Yes, but the Fed said this is bad, especially during the recession.
So they think that during the recession, when the people have less money to buy the stuff, it is bad that the prices go down?
Yeah, the virus is just the pin that's pricking the bubble. And the bubble, the credit bubble is by far the bigger issue.
What if the bank runs out of money? Some players think the bank is bankrupt if it runs out of money. The bank never goes bankrupt. To continue playing, use slips of paper to keep track of each player's banking transactions, until the bank has enough paper money to operate again. The banker may also issue new money on slips of ordinary paper.
Yeah, and so help us understand, right, when we talk about this kind of expansion of the balance sheet, one of the things that I saw on Twitter recently is, I think it's Ben Bernanke on a 60 Minutes episode, somebody said to him, what exactly, like, where is this money coming from? Are you using taxpayer money? And he, kind of nonchalantly said, no, we just go in and we just edit the account number.
Is that tax money that the Fed is spending?
It's not tax money. We simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
In fact, even the dollar is an IOU. Everything's an IOU. Go look at the dollar in your wallet if you have one. It says Federal Reserve note, paid to the order of. It is a debt instrument. The dollar itself is a debt instrument. So everything is an IOU piled on top of an IOU, piled on top of an IOU. That's a really important point. I think for some listeners, that's going to be news. Most of you probably understand that the banking system is an IOU. We don't legally own the deposits in our bank account. That's a promise to pay from our bank. So effectively, we've lent them the dollars we've deposited in the bank. The piece that very few people understand in my experience, though, is that the same is true in the securities industry. We think we own the shares in our brokerage account. In fact, we don't. They are IOUs the same way that the deposits in our bank account are IOUs. We're actually taking an obligation from our counterparty to deliver us the asset, and they have an obligation from a different counterparty to deliver them the asset, and they have an obligation from a different counterparty to deliver them the asset. And there's a huge daisy chain of IOUs in the securities and banking industries, respectively. They both work the same way.
So has the Fed ever been right about anything?
Let me see if I can think of anything. Nope.
And so, Bitcoin at its core as a communications medium is remarkable because of that, because it better than any other currency in the world. It has this trustability, this predictability, and anybody can check it any time of the day. We don't have to wait for, quarterly Fed minutes, and we don't have to wait for or emergency Fed action, right? With this recent coronavirus, every day we can just look up the stats. We can learn as much as we want. And because of that, again, it provides this kind of base open communications medium. And what that means is that, anybody that's dealing in Bitcoin actually feels like they're part of this kind of nation of Bitcoin. I think it's a similar thing to flying in a plane now, right? you fly in a plane all the way around the world, you take off, you land, you take off, you land. And it's become such a routine thing now that we don't even think much about it. But if you kind of step back and think, wow, like, I'm flying through the air, hurtling through the air at hundreds of miles per hour, and very skillfully, carefully landing, right? It's a remarkable thing. And I think that we're at this point with Bitcoin to where if you had asked me 3 or 4 years ago, would we be this far along around awareness and this far along around even adoption and other companies building on top of it, I would have told you you're crazy.
Your control over your wallet. Now, you may have heard me say in the past one of my slogans, which is not your keys, not your coins. And this applies to Bitcoin. It also applies to any other cryptocurrency where you have a decentralized system. In order for you to be in control of the funds or smart contracts or any other activities on a blockchain, you have to keep control of your keys.
What is a blockchain? Really, a blockchain is something where you're solving a double spend problem specifically by making everyone know everything, right? Everyone knows where the coins are in the pseudonyms, not the people, but they know where the coins are in the pseudonyms at all time. And if you violate that principle, okay, we have a bit of a problem. We saw that very concretely in Zcash in 2018, 2019, where they actually had a bug and nobody knew there was a bug and nobody knows if inflation was created or not. So they've kind of like violated that core principle of what a blockchain is.
Some of the other ones like Zcash, where they're essentially taxing you, or Ethereum, where they sell a huge ICO ahead of time, or even a number of other more scammy situations where the developers would have like hidden pre-mines that would only get revealed until later. Those certainly seem to be less ethical to me if there are things happening that the wider community is not aware about. But I guess the short version is I do believe that just due to the network effects and due to the more conservative nature of Bitcoin developers treating the software more like aerospace engineering.